it. So the hybrid loan is made for people who have different wants and needs than people that are going to get a 30-year fixed rate loan. So think about this logically. You have a client, because people go, why would I get a hybrid loan? You have a client that's moving in. One of the first questions you should ask your client is, how long are you going to own this home? Are you going to buy this home and use it as a stepping stone? A stepping stone would be your pyramiding. You're buying a house and you're going to use it you're going to keep it forever, and then you're going to take equity out of it and buy another house and then keep going. You're going to keep that house forever. So if you're going to keep that house forever with interest rates being really low, you're going to get them a 30-year fixed rate loan. However, let's say that you have a customer or a client that says to you, okay, I'm moving into California. I'm only going to be there for a short period of time. I'm coming from Minnesota, or I'm coming from New York, and I'm coming for a job that's going to be 3 to 5 years. Okay, you need to kind of decide how long you're going to be there. If you're only going to be there 3 years, you can get a 3-1 arm. If you're going to be there 5 years, or if you're going to be there 4 years, get a 5-1 arm. The reason you would take a 3-1, 5-1, or 7-1 is you're going to get a lot lower interest rate. Okay, the interest rate's only guaranteed for 3, 5, 7, or 10 years. So the number in the front on the hybrid where it says 3-1, that 3 stands for 3 years. 7-1, 5-1, 10-1, whatever that number is in the front is how long that loan is going to be at a fixed interest rate. It's not a fixed rate loan, it's an adjustable rate mortgage, okay? So it's gonna be fixed at that for that period of time. It's also gonna be interest only. So it's gonna be a low rate for interest only for a short period of time. Because it's a short period of time, the lender sees that there's not a risk in that short period of time, and they're not guaranteeing that loan for 30 years. So think about somebody who comes to California, they're gonna be here for 4 years. You would offer them a 5-1 arm because their payment would be lower, but it's gonna help them get into a property instead of renting. So if you're renting, and let's say that you're renting a $1.5 million property. If you're renting a $1.5 million property, you're probably paying about $6,000 a month or $6,500 a month. But let's say that they put down 20%, they get a loan, and let's say they get their loan for $650,000, okay, and it's interest only and it's at a low interest rate. So it's gonna be pretty close to the same thing they would be paying if they were renting. So instead of renting, they could buy, and then the equity, let's say they bought it for 800 grand. Well, now when they go to sell it 3 to 5 years later, it's worth, let's call it 950, 975. So now instead of renting, they're actually buying and they're gaining that equity in the property. So when they sell and they go back to where they came from, they're gonna get that equity. Does that make sense? So that's why you would do a hybrid loan. One of the questions that you're gonna see, or one of the questions I've seen, is there's a question about the 3-1 arm. And it says, John and Kathy Smith are moving here, they're relocating, and they wanna buy a property that they're only gonna own for 2 years. What loan program are you gonna give them? Most likely the 3-1 arm. So with the 3-1 arm, this is the interest rate, this is the start rate, this is the margin, this is the index. They're gonna give you all that. Now remember, that loan is not gonna do anything for 3 years. It's gonna stay at, let's call it 1 3/4 for 3 years. So then it says to you, after it gives you this big long story, at the end of the second year, what's the interest rate? And so everybody goes, what's the margin? What's the index? Who cares? Because at the end of the second year, it's gonna be exactly the same as it was the first year, because it doesn't do anything until the end of the third year. If it's a 3-1, if it's a 5-1, it doesn't do anything till the end of 5 years. So that's why you would give somebody that type of loan, because it's usually interest only at a low rate for the term of the beginning of the loan where it says slash, so it says 3/1 or 5/1. Does that make sense? Does anybody have a question or a problem with that one?
What's the answer on the test on that question?
You're kidding me, right? Okay, look at it. If it's not gonna change, if margin plus index, okay, if your interest rate starts at 1.5%, at the end of the first year, it's 1.5%. At the end of the second year, it's 1.5%. At the end of the third year is when you do the margin plus the index. If they ask you what it's gonna be at the end of the second year, it's gonna be the same as it was the first year. Okay, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. All right, so that's the hybrid loan. It's 3, 5, 7, or 10 years, okay? The conversion option loan is the conversion where you can convert it if you take an adjustable rate mortgage after the first year and before the 5th year. During that time, if you want to jump in and try to take an adjustable rate mortgage and hope that it's going to go down instead of up, which it has been going down for the last couple of years, Then you can take that loan, and anytime that you feel you want to fix it to a fixed rate loan, you can convert it to a fixed rate loan, usually for 1%. So inside the note, it will tell you, you'll be able to convert it after the first year, before the 5th year. You'll watch interest rates during that time. And if any time the rates come down, you can contact your lender and say, hey, I'm thinking about converting my loan. What would the interest rate be? And they'll usually give you about a quarter higher than the going rate. And the reason you'll get, like, let's say the going rate's 2.5%, you'll get 2 3/4. But that's because you're not going to pay for title, escrow, appraisal. You're not going to pay for any of those fees. You're going to pay a 1% conversion option fee. Does that make sense? So that's the conversion option. And then they show you the hybrid. ARM disclosures. So whenever you sell an adjustable rate mortgages, like any other type of loan, you're going to have to give disclosures to your borrowers to make sure that your borrower understands what kind of loan you're giving them. So you're going to have a disclosure, and on the adjustable rate mortgage, it's called the CHARM. The CHARM is put out by the Federal Reserve. So if you guys have a problem, don't worry, I'll tell you where it is in a second. If you guys have a problem and you're not feeling comfortable about the adjustable rate mortgage, the best thing you can do is go online, Google CHARM, and that is it's actually the adjustable rate booklet from the Federal Reserve. So it really helps you understand ARMs. When I first started selling ARMs, I kind of was confused. And I got that. And that thing's written so that a 10-year-old could read it and tell you how an ARM works.
I have one.
You have it? Oh, you have it? Yeah. Look at, she has it. It almost looks like the home loan toolkit.
Yeah, exactly.
So the home loan toolkit will help buyers understand how much their payments are going to be. And the CHARM will help them understand how the adjustable rate mortgage works. So like I said earlier, in order to make sure that people understood how adjustable rate mortgages worked and that they could sell them on the secondary market, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac standardized the ARM so that you could buy, so that they could be sold on the secondary market. Let's go over to ARM disclosures. On page 80 is where it says ARM disclosures. Lenders offering residential financing, including ARMs, must comply with federal guidelines under Regulation Z of the Truth in Lending Act that requires certain disclosures to borrowers. The lender is required to give the loan applicant, so it's on page 80, it's called the Consumer Handbook on Adjustable Rate Mortgages, known as CHARM, and it's prepared by the Federal Reserve Board. Within, highlight 3 business days of the loan application. So if you're selling an adjustable rate mortgage, when you give them the first 3 disclosures, you're gonna also add the CHARM book, okay?